When you think
我应该
tennis,
高
you
兴
think
吗？
of the battle. Two sides of the net, the passion, the emotions, a duel between personalities. But tennis used to be much different, reserved, orderly, strict. In other words, gated and restricted for those deemed not fortunate enough. And that was true up until Nike changed it. Through the 60s and 70s, tennis had a much different perception to what it is now. It was an Ivy League country club sport, in lines with the likes of golf or rowing, even polo. Now, there mostly wasn't any specific visible barrier preventing other than the upper class from enjoying tennis, but there were certainly subliminal signs, mostly stemming from how strict competition was conducted, the variety or class of people that played the sport, where competitions were held, and their numerous rules. It was a gentleman's game, no vulgar trash talk, no outbursts, and plain, pristine clothing. Yeah, wearing a woolen sweater vest on the court in the blazing sun. Performance be damned. God forbid my son Timothy play in anything but cashmere. It wasn't a universal rule, but it certainly aided in maintaining the elitist image the sport had cultivated. Brands like Fred Perry and Lacoste dominated the grass, clay, and emerging hardtop courts of the era. Yet the uniqueness of tennis was painfully underutilized. Two athletes competing head-to-head in a best of skill, finesse, power, endurance. There was a level of irony in making everyone dress the exact same, where personality could run free unlike any other sport. But as younger players in the 70s were on the rise and revolution started to brew, Nike were the ones to champion the coming change.
Anything any other 20-year-old would do, just have a good time and enjoy myself. And
from New York, John McEnroe.
I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming, but you can't talk about tennis counterculture without talking about John McEnroe. Unapologetically competitive and immensely intense, McEnroe was Nike's chance to turn tennis into what it should be. Nike signed McEnroe in 1978, just as the young player began to hit his stride in the professional scene. Both as an individual and doubles player, his title as one of the game's greats only rose alongside his perception as an aggressive, temperamental diva. Look, a lot of brands would see a loose cannon, a guy that was essentially the opposite of tennis etiquette. But Nike's CEO, Phil Knight, went in the other direction.
I was getting a lot of heat from the establishment in tennis, and people are like, suspend McEnroe for a year, he's bad for the game. I'd get a call, and it'd be Phil Knight, and he'd be like, keep doing what you're doing. And he loved it. And he would actually do campaigns that would sort of support what I did.
Nike embraced the raw, competitive nature of McEnroe and presented tennis not as a stuck-up, stiff game for the elite and retired, but an arena for self-expression. Aggression and showing passion, just how much you really cared, was no longer shunned, it was embraced. They weren't hiding what tennis could be or what an athlete feels. They were letting McEnroe and, by proxy, the sport itself free.
Today we'll review proper tennis procedure. Let's avoid overexcitement.
Audiences don't have to be attracted to his style of play. They can be a fan of his personality, maybe even relate to him. Even if they don't play tennis, they might still buy a pair of the shoes. But the next challenge was getting young consumers to pick up the racket. Whilst Nike had been attempting to bring a youthful energy to tennis, their bright neon designed clothing and multicolored shoes certainly stood out, but finding an athlete to suit them, that had been a bit more difficult. The breakthrough moment came in the mid-80s. Now look, for an exercise, close your eyes. Picture the typical tennis player. Now open them in 3, 2, 1. Aside from the racket, did it bear any resemblance to who you were thinking? Andre Agassi played loud and looked the part too. I mean, who else do you know is wearing jorts on a tennis court? Nike saw Agassi as a person who could redefine what it looks like to be a tennis player. Their following strategy essentially resulted in outfitting Agassi in the most outlandish Technicolor outfits 90s nylon could produce. Nike were taking the bat to tennis etiquette. You shouldn't have to conform to a game, the game should conform to you.
That ought to wake up the country club.
But not all audiences were on board. Tennis, whilst growing in popularity, was still largely made up of the pre-Nike era fans. It still hadn't captured youth America, and the desire to introduce tennis to them was the driving force behind Nike's new campaign for the 90s.
Looks pretty good stuff right here.
This ought to wrinkle someone's tennis whites.
Whilst obviously exaggerated, the clip showcases Agassi and Pete Sampras as disruptors, challenging what it means to be a tennis player and what the game is all about. It's not about prestige, prize money and winning, it's about having fun. Taking the kind of street ball energy Nike was familiar with and translating it to a tennis scene, and of all places in New York City, the location of the US Open, encouraging viewers from the area to dispel their previous tennis beliefs and maybe check out what was going on over in Queens. Setting up a makeshift court in the middle of a street was a literal visual display that tennis was now for everyone. The barriers to entry had been lowered. Tennis went from classical music to rock and roll.
Wanna play rock and roll tennis?
Let's dance.
With ads starring the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nike was standing behind the disruptors. For those who love the sport but aren't massive fans of its culture. Or rather, they want to change it.
Any questions?
The signature shoes like the Mac Attack and Air Tech Challenge now blurred the lines between performance gear and casual clothing. Even for fans who didn't play, they didn't need a racket to be a part of tennis anymore. We see it all the time today. The louder or multicolored garments worn by athletes across the globe can be mostly attributed to Nike. Without them, this form of expression wouldn't have been normalized. But Nike's push for self-expression never rested, and now it sends a stronger message than ever.
Very good, Serena Williams.
Serena and Venus Williams, two of the most famous and successful athletes on the planet. Hailing from Compton, California, it is literally a story fit for a Hollywood movie. In a sport that is, for the most part, predominantly white and traditionally for the wealthier, the Williams sisters broke the mold. Outspoken on issues both on and off the court,
done more for women's tennis than any player in history.
she's praised not just for her profession, but her unwavering passion for social change. Yet throughout her career, she faced an onslaught of critiques and heinous insults from the media, officials, spectators, and her opponents. In 2018, Williams faced backlash over a one-piece suit she wore at Roland Garros, dubbed the catsuit.
Serena Williams will have to ditch her skin-tight catsuit when she plays at the French Open.
We'll be seeing Serena wearing her skin-tight catsuit at the French Open next year. In an interview with
Serena Williams was reprimanded at the French Open for wearing this bodysuit that, again, who objects to this? And she had health.
Whilst many supported the look, others, including French Tennis Federation President Bernard Giudicelli, argued it wasn't fit for tennis. He claimed it was disrespectful and went too far. You have to respect the game and the place, he claimed when banning the outfit. Yet the Federation and Bernard seemingly entirely neglected the reason for its use. In 2011, Williams suffered from a blood clot, an event that left her susceptible to future occurrences. In 2017, complications during the birth of her first child resulted in life-threatening blood clots in her lungs, leaving her bedridden for the following 6 weeks of her first child's life.
With my blood clots, and God, I don't know how many I've had in the past 12 months.
Only around 5 months later, she was back competing at Roland Garros. Nike developed this compression bodysuit as a way to maintain blood flow during the competition, a valuable innovation more than it was a fashion statement. And even though officials and pundits saw differently, it didn't stop Serena.
If we show emotion, we're called dramatic. If we want to play against men, we're nuts.
Nike and Serena, for their Dream Crazier campaign, chose Williams as the narrator, speaking for not just tennis players, but women in sport.
When we stand for something, we're unhinged.
It's super, it's gonna need to calm down.
The words and phrases used to discredit their efforts are reclaimed. What is typically sexist language used to label female athletes is flipped on its head, being presented as badges of honor.
Changing her sport, landing a double cork 1080, or winning 23 Grand Slams, having a baby, and then coming back for more? crazy, 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 and crazy.
Representing the barriers these trailblazers break, Nike outlines their position that you shouldn't apologize for being different or bold. Since its debut at the 2019 Oscars, the ad has since amassed over 3 million views, making a seemingly simple commercial into an event showcased at an award show that celebrates the art of storytelling.
So if they want to call you crazy, fine. Show them what crazy can do.
By this point, Nike had understood that their brand was about more than sport. To many, wearing a swoosh or one of Serena's items is a statement. By celebrating and spotlighting these athletes, it's a far more impactful message than simply showcasing a product. A tennis court is now more than an arena solely for competition. It's a canvas for self-expression and a megaphone for social change. Nike is just as much a movement now as it was way back when. Nike began their injection into the tennis scene by challenging what tennis players can wear, backing those who disrupted the status quo, supporting their individuality and showcasing it on a global stage, breaking down those barriers and showing that tennis shouldn't be reserved for the wealthy. Now they use the platform they've created to support their athletes and fight for social justice. Unapologetic and never satisfied, continuing to push the game further and into the hands of more people.